sport of weightlifting has been around for years. Starting as a circus act, weightlifting is now developed into an essential part of sports and overall fitness. Weightlifting regimens are often used by athletes, professional weightlifters, and average gym goers looking to get into shape. Most people who lift weights center their training around the four major compound movements of the squat, deadlift, bench press, and military press. Out of these, the squat is one of the most complex and advanced movements that can be performed.
The squat is complex in nature for the following reasons. The sheer amount of muscles, tendons, ligaments, and joints that are involved in the overall movement, the center of gravity that has to be maintained throughout the entire motion as it changes due to body position, and the overall awkwardness and risk of injury in an untrained individual.
The barbell squat, which is a large compound weightlifting movement, is performed by the following. Placing the feet shoulder-width apart on the floor, the barbell is then placed over the traps, as far back as possible to properly distribute the weight. The hands are gripping the bar tight with a supinated grip while the hips are slightly thrusted forward and the abdominals pulled tight to create a slight arc in the lower back. The knees stay over the toes, not in front, and the heels are in line with the barbell. As descent begins, the chest is held high while the hips and buttocks moves downward until the angle of 90 degrees is created. The thighs are directly parallel to the floor. Power is generated as
The overall movement of the squat is located in the transverse plane. The barbell, since its movement is concentrated in a straight line, moves rectilinearly. The diagram shows the different forces during a squat, as well as the path of the barbell and the body. The knees, toes, and upper chest are aligned with one another. Throughout the motion of the squat, they remain in alignment. The barbell stays aligned with the soles of the feet to maintain movement along the force of gravity. Keeping this bar path and form is essential to get the most out of the exercise as well as stay safe while performing it. The movement of each joint and muscle in the squat changes based upon the phase of the squat being performed.
In this free body diagram, you can see the force of weight and the ground force reaction both align with the center of gravity of the individual squatting. The three phases of the barbell squat are as follows. Phase 1, the starting position, placing and standing with the barbell. Phase 2, the beginning of descent, and Phase 3, the ascent.
The major motion of the squat is based around the hip joint, knee joint, and ankle joint. The extension and flexion of these joints are made possible by muscles known as prime movers. The hip joint is able to be extended during the squat due to the gluteus maximus, semitendinous, semimembranous, and biceps femoris acting as prime movers. The prime movers of the knee joint, which allow the knee to extend, are the rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, and vastus lateralis. The ankle joint is in plantar flexion during the squat. The prime movers that allow the ankle joint to be in plantar flexion are the gastrocnemius and the soleus.
Also during a squat, the pelvic girdle must remain stabilized. It has the ability to move forward, backward, and side to side along several axes. Since the semimembranosus, semitendinosus, biceps femoris, and gluteus maximus have origins connecting into the pelvis must always be working to stabilize itself. This calls for the recruitment of the spinal extension muscles and the abdominal muscles, which are able to provide a counterbalance force and keep the trunk steady.
The joints of the lower extremities used in position 1 are the hip joint, knee joint, ankle joint, and toes. The hips are anteriorly rotated and in slight flexion as it creates the overall squat position of the buttocks pushed backwards and the upper body forward. This allows the weight to be vertically aligned with the center of mass and the center of gravity. The knee has a slight flexion as it is in the bent position of around 150 degrees. The ankle joint is held in its neutral position with the feet firmly planted on the floor. As one progresses into phase 2 of the barbell squat, the position of the joints as well as the muscles began to change due to the beginning of descent. During this phase, the hip joint is in flexion. The joints were all stressed due to the descent phase of the squat. As one begins to descend into the barbell squat, the hip joint is posteriorly rotated to balance the weight. This is due to the fact that the lower body moves, the lower the center of mass moves. To keep balanced, the weight must stay aligned with the center of mass and the center of gravity, thus keeping the movement on the same vertical axis as it was before. To be able to maintain this balance, the knee is flexed throughout the descent until it reaches a 90-degree angle.
Muscles in the lower extremity produce the power used to lift the weight back to the starting position. During the ascent phase, the body works to keep the squatter properly balanced. Lateral rotation as well as medial rotation may occur as the gluteus maximus and hamstrings begin to contract to elevate the body. This results in the contraction of the hip joint muscles in order to neutralize the undesired rotation.
As the knee joint extends, the quadriceps contracts and create tension on the patella. Most knee injuries are due to muscular imbalances that occur between the vastus lateralis and vastus medialis. A muscular imbalance between the vastus lateralis and vastus medialis would cause an uneven force along the patellar tendon, which makes it susceptible to injury.
Some speculate that muscle recruitment of the squat can be altered by a change in foot positioning, but this claim is false. Rotating the feet into different angles does not change the muscle groups that are active during the squat. This was proven in a study conducted by researchers Boyden, Kingman, and Dyson, as they found surface electromyographic activity of the vastus medialis, vastus lateralis, and rectus femoris on the right leg. Results and analysis of variance indicated that the foot rotation positions did not influence the mean peak activity or mean duration of activity of any of these three muscles.
The mechanics of the squat are greatly governed by location of center of gravity throughout the motion. Gravity aids in the descent portion of the squat as it helps squatters to maintain balance throughout the descent. The center of gravity will change as one goes through the motion of the squat. As the squatter descends, the center of gravity is also lowered. One must keep their line of gravity straight and aligned to the line of support to maintain balance as the descent begins. This will help maintain balance and help the squatter maintain form throughout the ascent phase.
Overall, the barbell squat is one of the best exercises that can be performed by all weightlifters. However, its ability to activate so many muscle groups come from the complexity of the exercise. The biomechanics of the squat require the mastery of the technique of squatting to prevent injury, but when mastered, the results are phenomenal.
Command you to grow. You must grow. I'm the boss, motherfucker.